another episode of Hope in the Horizon here at the Irvine Spinal Cord Research Center in Irvine, California. I'm Joe Cortez.
And I'm Oz Stewart.
Dr. Stewart, today we're going to have one of your colleagues doing some amazing things here at the Research Center. Can you tell us a little bit about your friend?
Yes, absolutely. So this is Dr. David Rankensmeyer. Dave is a professor of aerospace engineering here. And what Dave has been doing for the last several years is working on ways to improve the function of people with brain and spinal cord injuries. And his focus is to try to use training techniques that are specially tailored to whatever the deficits are that a person has. He has developed ways, for example, to train people who have had strokes, to improve the use of their hands, and to train people who have had spinal cord injuries to improve their ability to walk. All of these things are based on really human experiments where he is devising devices and techniques to optimize performance. And that's really what it's all about.
That's great. Let's take a look at what Dr. Rankensmeyer has to say.
I'm David Rankensmeyer. I'm a professor in mechanical and aerospace engineering and biomedical engineering. And I do research on trying to build robotic devices to help people with stroke or spinal cord injury practice movement and regain movement ability. What we know is that even after the nervous system's injured due to, say, a spinal cord injury or a stroke or a traumatic brain injury, people can still learn and the nervous system can still learn. And we don't know right now how far we can push that, so we're trying to make devices that help people practice moving to try to improve their ability to walk or use their hands and arms after different neurologic injuries. So the robots have help people in three main ways. One is to learn to move. You have to repeat moving a lot. You have to practice a lot. So the robot gives you a way to practice moving a lot. And so you don't have to have a therapist next to you the whole time. You could partially automate the training. Another thing is, in order to learn well, you have to pay attention and put a high effort. So we try to make our robots have really engaging games and virtual environments to help people relearn how to move. And then the third thing is you need to be challenged at your appropriate level. So if you're trying to do something that's too hard for you, you're not going to learn very well. Or if it's too easy for you, you're not going to learn very well. And this is really problematic for a lot of people that have motor impairment after a spinal cord injury or a stroke. For example, if you can't move your arm, it's very discouraging to try to practice moving your arm. So our robotic devices assist you in moving your arm and learn a model of you of exactly how much help you need in order to practice moving. So we built, earlier today I showed you the robot called Bones, which is an exoskeleton for the arm and wrist and hand that allows people with stroke to practice moving their arms. And then I'm going to show you a device called Pam and Pogo, which is a device that will help people who cannot walk. It assists in walking and retraining walking above a treadmill. A group of high school students who are taking a summer course at UC Irvine about what it's like to be a medical student and what it's like to be a doctor. And they dropped by the lab today. And just like robotics are increasingly being used in surgery, robotics are being increasingly used in rehabilitation. And so we had the opportunity to have some of the kids put their arms in the robot and practice moving and see how challenging the games can be and then have the robot adapt to their movement ability. So in the future, I think is when people have a spinal cord injury or a stroke, you're going to see increasingly, we're already seeing it, increasingly they're going to get more and more intense therapy using these robotic devices. And so the doctor of the future will be using robots to help people recover movement ability. The robot itself is air-powered. So we wanted to make a robot that was very strong like a human therapist's arm, but also very light. And one of the best ways to do that is using air. Now, the problem with using air is it's very hard to control. So we worked with Professor Bobrow here in the Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering Department, who's a world expert in pneumatic robots. And we were able to generate a robot that can control a human arm very compliantly, which means soft and gently, but also can apply a lot of force to the arm for people who are very weak. The robot itself has 6 degrees of freedom on it, so it mimics about the same number of degrees of freedom as the human arm, and it uses about 18 different sensors to measure the movement ability of the person. And that gets all reported into the computer, and the computer learns a model of each patient about how much assistance they need to practice moving. So I want to tell you a little bit about the clinical results we get from our robotic devices. So we essentially find that when people exercise with the robot, and these are people with stroke and a chronic stroke, they can recover their movement ability, and each person tells a different story about something that they can do now that they weren't able to do before. It might be opening a doorknob, holding a grocery bag, holding down a checkbook, things like that. And overall, we find that people significantly recover some movement ability with intense practice. But one of the main things we find is it's much more motivating for the person to do the therapy in the robotic device. Part of that's the video game or gaming aspect of it, or being in this virtual environment. But another big part of it we've learned in surveys from the patients who have used the devices is what we like to call functional causality, where the person, when they will a movement, then something actually happens that's meaningful. And so normally, in a lot of circumstances, that won't happen because they're too weak to move against gravity, for example. But in the robot, if they will something to happen, something meaningful happens, and that's highly motivating for a person. So we find that overwhelmingly people prefer the robotic therapy because of the gaming and of that functional causality. We've built another robot, which is a robot for helping in gait training of people with spinal cord injury, and that was worked with Susie Harkema, who's at University of Louisville, and Reggie Edgerton, who's at UCLA, and again, Professor Barbaro in my department here at UC Irvine. And this robot can take a person who's too weak to walk in the presence of gravity and provide some body weight support, and then help the person's legs move in a walking pattern. And there's been some work first in animals and then in humans showing that if you repetitively help a person walk, that their spinal cord can get better at controlling walking. And so again, we're trying to automate that training technique. So today we have the robot set up. We thought Joe would like it to see it moving around a punching bag, so we've got it set up with a punching bag.
Well, that was really great what Dr. Rankensmeyer had to show with the heavy bag today. That was great. Had me work out a little bit. Had some fun. Had to see it myself and get myself in shape. Anyway, to our viewers out there, catch us next week on the next episode of Hope in the Horizon. See you then.